Benefactor underwriting for this broadcast has been provided by a grant from Republic Bank. The power of red is back. Major underwriting support for this broadcast has been provided by grants from New York Community Bank, M&T Bank, Perfect Building Maintenance, Customers Bank, Collins Building Services, Marks Paneth. Additional underwriting support has been provided by grants from AmTrust Title, Bank of America, Capital One Bank, Douglaston Development Levine Builders, Flushing Bank, Freedman LLP, Handro Properties LLC, Handler Real Estate Organization, Investors Bank, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Institute at Syracuse University, John Catsimatidis Red Apple Group, New Banks, Meridian Capital Group, Ocean First Bank, RPW Group, TD Bank, the One Stop Property Group, and these friends.
Troy, New York? Who's in Troy, New York? Albany, New York? Oh, well, what is this over here? Go to Spain, lawyer, Bella Abzug, tattoo as a waitress, Barty's 17th Street. I don't know. Oh, maybe one day, I'm on maternity leave. It's an easy way. I'll get into the brokerage business. I'll go to work for Corcoran. Okay, no, I'm going to change. What is it now? The CEO of Brownharris Stevens. Bess Freedman, thank you for being here. So tell me about your grandparents, okay? Let's start with Daddy's side, okay?
So my grandparents, Edith and Reuben Freedman, Troy, New York. I spent a lot of time with them as a kid. They came from different parts of Russia and Poland. My brother has the family tree, he knows everything.
That's Menashe?
Maish.
Maish, okay.
Morris is his name. My older brother, Maishi, I call him.
You're the baby. You're in between.
I'm in the middle.
You're in the middle.
I'm right in the middle, and I have a younger brother, Hyman.
Okay, so how does Dad or his father end up in Troy?
You know, they were in downtown Troy. That's where they started. My grandfather was there, met my grandmother. They lived in South Troy, which was a dangerous kind of neighborhood at the time, and started.
And he was in the scrap business.
He was in the scrap business.
Scrap metal.
Scrap metal. Zadie, my grandfather, and back in those days, the houses they all lived together. So my grandparents, my Bubby and Zadie, they lived with my grandmother Edith, her parents, Bessie at the time that her dad had passed away. So they all lived together under,
like they were 9 families.
They were all under one roof, and there was a respect for people as they got older, as opposed to sort of putting them in homes. And my dad, who was the oldest, he had a brother and sister, Seymour and Joyce. His grandmother, Bessie, who I'm named after, died in the house. She passed away. And in Jewish tradition, you can't leave a body unattended. So she was in the basement waiting till the next day for everybody to come, the rabbi and all the stuff, and everybody, was kind of freaked out because there was a dead body. But my dad, he was 9 at the time, went downstairs and spent the night sitting by her side. And so it's a story I've heard from the relatives because.
Okay, so we're in Troy.
Yes.
Dad's in the scrap business working with his father.
Yes.
Okay, how's he meet your mother?
I guess the stories that they met in a restaurant. And my dad tells the story, my dad's not here anymore, let him rest in peace, but he says he saw my mom, stunningly beautiful, fell in love with her, they started talking and they started a relationship. And so.
Now, was he in the military?
He was in the Army, he was a paratrooper.
That's right.
And I have photos of him jumping out of planes. He was always a little nutty. My dad did a lot of things that most people wouldn't do. And so, yeah, he did that.
When did they decide to leave Troy for the cosmopolitan city of Albany, New York?
So my mom and dad, we lived on Oxford Road in Troy, which was great growing up. I went to Hebrew school there, in public school. But then my mom, thanks to my mom, she wanted to get out of Troy and go to Albany, which is this big cosmopolitan, it's the state capital. And so she moved us when I was 11, when I was going to 7th grade.
Do you think it was her Greek background that was pushing her?
I think it was her sophisticated mindset. She knew that Troy had its limitations, great place to grow up, but she knew for us, she wanted us to be in a better environment with people that were doing more things. So she forced all of us, including my dad, to move to downtown Albany. We lived on Chestnut Street. And, you know, you started to meet kids from all different backgrounds.
So how old were you when you moved to Albany?
I was 11. I was going into 7th grade. I went to Girls Academy, which I was, you know, didn't want to wear a uniform. It was a whole different vibe.
A rebellious person.
I was rebellious from a young age. And so, but it was kids from all over. It was more international in a way because you had different backgrounds. In Troy, it was smaller, you know, so it was great for us.
Let's talk about the Bella Abzug story because it has an effect on your entire life and your career.
It does. So Bella, my mom took me when I was 9 years old to...
And you're still living in Troy. That's why I brought it up.
You brought it up, yes. She took me to RPI, which is, you know, the school. Everybody's familiar with that. And we went to go see Bella, and she was on a stage there, and she spoke about women and women's rights, and she said, you know, women belong in the House of Representatives. And for a 9-year-old, I'm like taking all this in. I'm there with my mom.
You even had a diary. I have a copy of the picture of the diary.
And I got her autograph that day. And it sort of turned a light on for me, saying, wow, women have a stage. They can do things. They belong in places. They're not that it's less than, but they can be moms and homemakers, but they can also be in government. They can be lawyers. So I decided that day that I was going to be a lawyer, like Bella, who was my hero, and I followed her career throughout. But she had a huge impression on me.
Did you see her ever again?
Never got to see her again. I read her biography, I followed her career, but that was the one and only time that I got to kind of see her on the stage. Never got to meet her.
Now, when you were in high school or junior high school, you had the opportunity to work for a law firm?
When I was in high school, I worked for the DA at the time, which was Doug Rutnick. I interned in the summers there, volunteered because I wanted to, law was very attractive to me. I wanted to get involved. I wanted to do something, so I did that in the summertime. And I loved it. I loved anything that had to do with a courtroom or cases. It was just intrigue for me.
So how did you decide after high school to go to Ithaca College?
I went to Ithaca.
I mean, it wasn't too far away.
It wasn't too far away, and oddly enough, my niece is going to Ithaca next year, which I'm excited about. It was a great school, a good environment. It's like a little bit of hippie heaven. You know, even the mailman wears Birkenstocks in Ithaca. And it was a great experience for me, and I was able to do a lot of good internships, meet very influential people for me in my life there, professors.
Tell me some of the people you met.
I met, who I'm still friends with today, Jules Bergevin, who taught this class called The Sociology of Responsibility. And he kind of taught us about how when you show up in life, you have to look out for other people and pay attention. And he really had an impact on me. And Hector Velez, who was another professor. And it was a really sort of great place to grow and learn and see a lot of things.
So during college, what you do during the summers? I know when you grew up, you went to summer camp.
Yes.
And there was one time the story on you on the car that you didn't want to leave. That you didn't.
Oh, you remember too much. Yeah. Yes, I hated sleepaway camp, and my parents sent myself, my brother Mason Jaime, every summer to, you know, Ginger Cook. There were all different camps that we went to. And my mom would tell the stories of how she'd open the mailbox. There were 5 letters from me wanting to come home. But one time when they came on parents' visitation day and they were pulling out to leave, I threw myself on the hood of their car, no joke, because I always wanted to be home. I didn't want to be, I didn't like sleepaway camp. As a little kid in the formative years, you know, 10, 11, 12, I found home was a place of peace for me. And I found that all my friends wanted to be at my house because...
Did you ever go to the scrapyard?
I did go to the scrapyard a lot. I can sit in my dad's office with him. I drew him photos, you know, little pictures and stuff, and I'd listen in on his meetings. And every day he would have a whiteboard and he'd put a quote of the day, something to sort of influence the day. So I loved, you know, my older brother Maishi worked with him in the scrapyard, and Jaime did too in summer. So that was more a part of but for me it was just like a trip, you know, for the day. I didn't want to get dirty.
So since you knew, since you're 9 years of age, you wanted to go to law school, let's talk about how you decided, where you decided to go to law school and why.
So I went to Antioch, or the University of the District of Columbia in DC, which is a public interest law school. You have to do 750 hours of community service to graduate. So you spend times volunteering in prisons and schools, and it's a lot of your time is spent doing that besides the regular curriculum. So that was, because that's what I wanted to do, was I wanted to work in that environment. And so I went to DC, moved to DC, and I studied law there, met a lot of great friends who I'm still friends with today, and professors, and did internships, and did an internship at the state's attorney's office in Maryland.
Right, we have a picture of your badge, right?
My badge, which I still
So
have.
what did you do for the state's attorney office?
I did.
A prosecutor or a defender?
I was a prosecutor.
Ooh.
I was a prosecutor, and my boss, Danny Barnett, who is still a very good friend of mine, he was my boss. So I prosecuted like small drug cases, like, you know, marijuana and that sort of thing, assault cases, domestic violence cases. Sometimes your docket would be like 100 cases, and you would speak in front of the judge, and you would try to get things worked out. But it was great experience because you learned how to prepare and then argue your case, you know, and then so.
But what you were saying before with the 750 hours of social justice.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of this was social, taking care of the community.
Yes.
It was not practicing law for the business part of law. It was more of a...
It was because that's what I felt that I wanted to work with people who didn't have a voice. And people will say, well, prosecutor, that's the other side, but it absolutely isn't, because you have an opportunity there to listen to the other side's story, to give them a chance, a second chance, to go to rehab, to seek the help they need, to listen carefully. So I feel when you have power, you have an opportunity to help people. And as a prosecutor, you have huge power, immense power. And you and I have both seen when leadership has power and lacks love, right? We can see what happens. You see that right now in Ukraine with Putin.
Right.
So I felt I could do a lot with that. I mean, it was a few years of that, but it was fantastic.
So when do you graduate law school?
Oy, how can I remember all these things?
You better.
1996.
So
I'm elderly now, Michael.
Okay, so you're 1996. I'm not telling you the age, but
I don't care. I'm 52. I'm proud of my age.
Okay, you're going to be 53 on May 31st.
That's right. I'm a Gemini.
Okay, Gemini. So what happens, you graduate law school, what do you do now? I mean, you have a law degree?
I have a law degree, and so you have to obviously, you know, the bar is, you have to figure out your career and all that stuff. But I had a dream in the sense that I wanted to study Spanish. I spoke Spanish a little bit, learned it, studied it in college, had a lot of Spanish-speaking friends, so I went to Spain. I moved to Seville, and lived with families and studied Spanish. I lived in Malaga for a little while, did the same thing. So I needed to have a little time to breathe, travel.
So how long were you in Spain? A year?
I was in Spain probably 7 months, 6, 7 months.
And then?
And then I came back and I had to put my nose down and get to work, study for the bar, take the bar and get a job, which I did.
Okay, but you took the bar there's a different bar for Washington and there's a different bar of New York State.
I took the Maryland bar and worked as and applied for a job as an assistant state's attorney where I had interned previously. Luckily I was able to, that was my first real like lawyer gig, working as a prosecutor.
So how long were you a prosecutor?
I did that for a few years.
Okay.
I met my husband at the time, Sergio, when I was a prosecutor. He lived in the same apartment complex in DC. It's called McLean Gardens. And we were neighbors and friends. And so we kind of fell in love there. And so he proposed to me while I was working as a prosecutor. And he was living in Spain at the time. So I left my job to go be, romance. People have waged wars for love. So
you go back to Spain.
Go back to Spain, live in Sevilla with Sergio, and I go back to school because what am I going to do? At that point, I needed to, study Spanish and really keep perfecting it, which I did. And but after a while, I needed to get back to work. So I encouraged Sergio, and we moved back to the United States.
But you moved to Miami, right?
We moved to Miami. Yep, we lived in Miami.
Why Miami?
Well, he had family there. His brother Alberto and Jane lived there. So we decided that it'd be a good place. You know, we thought, okay, we'll go to Miami. I'll get a job. He had a job offer there too at a startup. So that was kind of pulled us there.
What kind of job did you get in Miami?
I had to take the Florida bar. So I went there, so another bar, which they're not fun. And I applied for a prosecutor's job in Miami, which I was offered and got. But Sergio's company, it's when the .com sort of blew up. That was closing. So we looked at each other and said, you know, we don't really love it here. Miami, although I love Miami to visit, we both didn't love it. So we drove back to New York and we decided we were going to move to New York. So we got to New York, we stayed in my mom's apartment, and the next day we were moving into our apartment was 9/11, the awful day that the towers came down. That morning, when we were moving in, one of the movers, you know, we're on 86th Street, he said, you know, a plane just hit the World Trade Center. And still to this day, like it's hard to believe that.
So now this is before your daughter is born.
My daughter was yet to be conceived.
Okay, so what do you do when you come back to New York after 9/11?
So Sergio had a job in Mount Sinai. He had a job there. He does database administration, and so he had a great job there. And I got a job at Legal Aid to work as an attorney there.
Legal Aid was before you got the Barneys and the...
Barneys I did after college for 1 year. I worked at 17th and 7th Avenue at Barneys as a makeup artist in the apothecary section, doing makeup, selling candles, whatever, all that stuff. And then I went to law school. But before that, Barneys, before I started working at Barneys, I did waitress for a while at Tattoo, which was a kind of a bar midtown that I got fired from, actually.
Now, you also said you you were a waitress at either Howard Johnson or another upstate chain, correct?
I did that before when I was, before I actually went to college.
So let's talk about legal aid. How do you get to legal aid?
So I was looking for a job as a lawyer, and legal aid.
Three bar leaders: New York, Maryland, and Florida.
Well, New York. So I have Maryland, D.C., and Florida. Yes, and New York. You can come to New York and work pro hoc vice, which is like until you are admitted. So legal aid, I applied because I thought it'd be a great job for me, and so they gave me a job in the juvenile rights division, which I was excited to start. And my daughter was born probably a year or so after I started at Legal Aid, and I was supposed to go back, and that's when everything changed.
Okay, so let's talk about that. You're supposed to go back. Your mother is in the knitting business at this time?
She has a store on 84th Street called The Wool Gathering, which a lot of people used to go to. She doesn't have it anymore, but it was a great store for people to meet. She had a lending library in the knitting store where people would come and she would lend out books. But people would sit around the table, much like we do with Mahjong, and they would just knit and talk. And so it was a really nice, knitting was a big part of.
So how did knitting have an effect on the person who had never been really involved with regular business to get involved with the real estate brokerage business?
So a friend came into the knitting store. Her name is Adrienne Berman, who's a friend, who's now an agent at Brownharris. But she came into the knitting store, and she said to me, I was with my daughter at the time, who was a baby. She said, "You should get into real estate. You would be great at real estate. Let me introduce you to my, at the time, my manager at the time, Pamela. You would be fantastic." So
it was at Corcoran at this time.
I was at Corcoran, and so I was trying to figure out what I was going to do, go back to legal aid, do this. I had a small baby at home, and I wanted flexibility. And she said, give it a try. And so consulting with my mom, she said, I think you should try it. So I did, and I never looked back.
So let's talk about the initial stages, because, going from the salesperson to the CEO is a major transition.
It is.
Let's talk about the Corcoran days, the initial time.
Okay.
The frustration, and then you were talking to me about for sale by owners. There were a lot of, at that time, a lot of people would do it themselves.
Yeah, so when I started in real estate as an agent at Corcoran, which was fantastic, I did the training, and you have to, I didn't have a book of business to work from. I had to build my own, so I did.
Oh, your legal aid clients.
they weren't really ideal people for what I was trying to do. So what I did was I called FSBOs, which you know what that is, for sale by owners. And I couldn't believe how entrepreneurial and like you could call whoever you want, you could make appointments, you could try. I felt like, because I hadn't been in that world before. So, and I got 2 listings from one owner by going to his open houses. And
Gary?
Gary Snyder, yes, he and I just corresponded with each other. He said, okay, one day he goes, okay, kid, I'm gonna give you a chance. He had 2 studios, one on the west side and one on the east side, and I felt like I hit the lottery. It was like this feeling, the adrenaline of working hard and achieving, and somebody giving you a chance to prove yourself. I knew I was gonna do a great job for him, and I just really worked hard nonstop, and we sold both studios. And it kind of got me going. It gave me momentum. I was so proud to stand up and tell everybody about my 2 listings that I got by myself without anybody, you know. And so I just felt like if you have the hustle and muscle in real estate, you can do.
So you worked for Pam at that time?
Well, Pam Liebman was, and she still is, the CEO, yes. And I worked in the office in Carnegie Hill, and Pamela Barnes-Moses was the manager. And I did that for about 6.5 years or so as an agent, which I loved it.
Did you build a team?
I never did a team. I was a one-person kind of, I just did my own thing.
Why do you think you were a one person as opposed to a team? Because I know you're team-oriented now.
Well, we have a mixture of stuff. I liked doing my own things. I really liked working with the sellers and working with buyers one-on-one, and I liked having control over it. I needed to know what was going on, and so I have like colleagues that I would work with on something.
That you refer, right?
Exactly.
Different manner as opposed to a full team.
Exactly.
So you did this for what,
6.5 years or so, and then it seemed to be that I was working with a lot of the agents, helping them a lot, and that I was good at kind of supporting people. And so I met with Pam Liebman, and they had an opportunity in management. I was the managing director at 660 Madison, and I worked just to support the agents. And it was such good experience. It was, you had to help them, support them, whether it was a pitch or they were losing a listing, or they were, having a problem with a sell, whatever it was, you were there to be supportive and help, because you don't have a job but for the agent. And so I clearly understood that in my role, and I loved it. I still have such great friends at Corcoran. I mean, there's such talented people and a great group. And so.
So after that, you became the director of business development?
At Brownharris.
How'd that happen?
I had
great organizations, Corcoran and Brownharris Stevens, where you are.
Yeah.
160-year-old?
Yeah, well, we've been around since 1873.
Okay.
So it's just a few years, a legacy company. But I had met I met Hall, I met, Arthur and Will and Alan Kersner at different events, and they were looking for someone. Hall was looking for somebody in case he always says if he gets hit by a bus, he wanted a person. And so I had met them and we had some conversations, and they were, it seemed like a really familial environment, whereas Corcoran was great, but it was limited. There was not much more that I could have done at Corcoran.
So you then became co-president?
Yep, I was director, and then I became co-president.
And then how the transition to CEO, which they didn't have at that time?
That happened at the end of 2018. The owners were looking for more sort of cohesiveness with the company, because Hall just oversaw, not just, but he was focused on New York City. And when I went to Brownharris, I worked and supported all the regions and was doing more of a global sort of outreach. And so they felt like it'd be great to have somebody overseeing everything. And it was a great privilege and honor to
How large is Brownharris today?
We're probably about 2,800 agents in 4 states, in Florida, Connecticut, New Jersey, and New York, and 53 offices. And it's the leadership team is phenomenal, from Matt Leone, our CMO, to Hall, who is leading New York, to Alan, who's the COO, to leadership. Arthur and Will Zeckendorf, who are fantastic supporters of the company. And Paul Herman, who does the managed buildings. It's a great, and we're last on privately owned. Who's left?
Okay, talk to me about children and mom.
Children.
And your brothers.
Okay, so children, I have 2, Jacob, who is 16, who's in Costa Rica right now in boarding school. Had some challenges with him, so he's there.
And your daughter?
She's 19, and she's a sophomore at Berkeley School of Music.
Singer.
She's a singer, and she's just they're both great kids. And my brothers, Jaime, who's my baby brother, Hunka, I call him. He's a sweet.
Is he in Roosevelt Island?
He lives in Roosevelt Island. And my older brother, Morris, Mo, I call him, who I talk to probably every single day. I'm tight with both of them, but nobody makes me laugh as much as my brother.
Mom lives near you?
My mom, Sylvia, she is in Rhinebeck. She was in New York, but she left the city during the pandemic, and now she's in Rhinebeck full time.
And then most important for the audience is the new Mahjong club, because you're a pathetic Mahjong player who just loves Mahjong.
I do.
And have good friends.
I have a great group of Mahjong goddesses, as I call them. And you know what's nice about it is that women coming together agendaless and just showing support and love for each other without any judgments and we just come with our card and just listen to each other.
No listings, just cards.
No listings, no business, no pitches. It's just pure, unadulterated Mahjong. And we're going to a tournament in October in Las Vegas.
And most important is thank God to your mother and your late father.
My dad.
For creating an environment for you and meeting Bella.
That's
changing your career.
I agree.
Thanks for being here today.
Thank you so much, Michael, for having me.
My
It's
pleasure.
great.
And I got